Dean Thomas is an absolute clown. He's gone out here after UFC 330 and made an absolute fool of himself. I just watched his embarrassment of an apology video on the Deep Waters YouTube channel, the Deep Waters podcast on Paramount. I used to kind of sort of be a fan of Dean Thomas. I used to kind of sort of think that his shitty, mediocre coach's cam commentary was all right. I used to think it was all right, it's a little bit of CTE, a little bit of, slurring of the words, but he got the point across and he was okay. He was decent. He was kind of entertaining, but he's gone out here and said some truly disgusting comments after his fighter, Gillian Robertson, who he cornered at UFC 330, went out and lost to Mackenzie Dern, and he's getting a lot of backlash for it, and rightfully so. Gillian Thomas went out there and she lost. She didn't look great against Mackenzie Dern. It was a bit of a snooze fest, but she won the final round, which is an impressive feat against Mackenzie Dern, who's a legit champion, who's a good fighter. But she lost. She lost pretty convincingly, and she really did not have anything for Mackenzie Dern in that fight. And do you know what Dean Thomas, the man who's been coaching her for 15 years, since she was a kid, the man who's been with her since her first professional MMA fight, all the way up until her title shot, her moment, the biggest opportunity of her life. Do you know what Dean Thomas said after she lost that fight? He basically belittled her, kicked her when she was down, and made it all about himself. He made it all about himself. He said, what did he say? Play the clip. Play the fucking clip.
Might be as far as she can go, and I am officially retiring from cornering fighters tonight.
Wow.
Yes.
You're doing the Matt Serra.
I'm doing the Matt Serra. I am no longer cornering fighters.
Can we not decide this the night of? Maybe you need time to sit on this?
It was disgusting. He's saying he's taken her as far as he thinks she can go. So he's basically saying that she's capped out as a fighter and that she's never going to be anything more than just a title challenger, a one-time title challenger, which is, by the way, still an incredibly impressive feat. 0.01% of MMA fighters get to that point. 1% of all UFC fighters get to that point. It's an incredibly impressive feat to challenge for a title, win or lose. But he's basically said that that's her ceiling and that's her ceiling in the sport. And he made it all about himself. This fucking Shrek-looking, bold-ass motherfucker, little bold Matisa head-looking dickhead, goes out there and his fighter, who he's been with since she was a kid, fighting in the regional scene, making peanuts, climbing her way up in the UFC, 5-fight win streak, finally put something together, went out and got a title shot and lost. And he makes it all about himself and says, you know what, I'm quitting. I don't want to be in the corner. And even in his apology video on the Deep Waters podcast, he's saying how hard it is for him that he has to go and he has to corner her and go to a dark place. Dark places like the fighters have to go to. You don't have to go anywhere, bro. You have to remember to tell her to throw a jab and a leg kick. You don't have to go to no dark place, little bro. You're not fighting. You're not in there with Mackenzie Dern. You're not in there with another UFC fighter, with a trained killer. He's saying how hard it is for him to get to that dark place and to be a coach. Fair enough, I'm sure it's difficult. And then he's saying it's difficult to go from that to having to commentate, to working the desk, and he said he was basically tired, and he gave this bullshit apology to her. Which, by the way, it sounded like he didn't even apologize to her in person. It sounded like he just apologized to her on the fucking broadcast. So it wasn't even a personal apology. It was an apology because the media, because the MMA fans, and everyone that's seen the clip of Dean Thomas has been berating him for it. He only really apologized because of the backlash he was getting, in my opinion. And that's why he did it so publicly. Otherwise, he would have done it privately and actually spoken to her and actually had a conversation with her. But he's made an absolute fool of himself. And even in that apology video, he's still making it about himself, saying how hard it is to go from being a coach to working the desk and how he was tired, basically, making excuses for himself. It wasn't a legit apology, and it wasn't a proper one, in my opinion. And he's just made himself a fool, to be honest with you. From the first words that he dropped, basically saying that Gillian Robertson failed and she's never going to be anything in the sport, to a bullshit apology that he gave today. Dean Thomas has been on a generational run, losing the very little aura that he has, just like his hairline. he's a douchebag, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, like, you can't be saying stuff like that about any fighter, let alone your own. You know how many fighters have gone from being knocked out, dominated, beaten, submitted, said they were never going to be champ, and come back. Justin Gaethje is the fucking lightweight champion of the world. Sean Strickland said this perfectly. He said he's gotten his ass whooped in multiple weight classes, and he's gone on to become the 2-time middleweight champion of the world, arguably the second, third greatest middleweight of all time. Everyone loses in this game. Everyone loses in this sport. Gillian Robertson is still young. Do I think she can be champ? Do I think she can make a run? I don't know. If I had to put money on it, I'd probably say no. But stranger things in this sport have happened. Volkanovski, Justin Gaethje, these guys are all fucking 37, 38 years old. They're champions right now. I'm not comparing Gillian Robertson to, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. One of the greatest of all time, Volkanovski. I'm not making that direct comparison, but you get my point. Fighters lose, fighters get humbled, they get set back all the time, and they come back and they can do incredible things, and they can make resurgences in their career. So for Dean Thomas to be that pessimistic about his own fighter is crazy work. Dean Thomas retires from cornering. Who gives a shit, bro? His cornering advice was abysmal. Do I think if he was better in that corner, she would have won that fight? No, I don't think that. But his cornering was not that crazy to begin with. The 5th round, he looked dejected. He looked like he didn't want to be there. I'm sure that rubbed off on Gillian, and that was her best round. So maybe if he had been a bit better throughout the fight, things could have gone differently. He was a terrible cornerman. And for him to retire from it like it's this big deal, like we're all going to be mourning the retirement of Dean Thomas from the fucking corner. No one cares, bro. No one cares. You sit here and you give mediocre commentary. You give mediocre commentary and you give shitty corner advice. And then you go out there and you berate your fighter for losing. And then give a shit apology and expect everything to be fucking kumbaya, sitting around the campfire, smoking that Dean Thomas pack. Like, he needs this backlash, and I hope it wakes him up. And I hope he gives a proper apology to Gillian Robertson from his heart, in person. But it doesn't seem like he's the type of person to do that, and he doesn't seem like it seems like he's shown his character as a man a little bit. But Dean Thomas, absolute fool. Let me know what you guys think. I think he just made an absolute dick of himself. And Gillian Robertson needs to part ways with him. She needs to part ways with him. I know they've been together a long time, but if this is how he's treating when you're down, that's how you know who your true friends are. That's how you know who is actually behind you, who actually has your back, is when you're down and out. When the phone stops ringing. I know I'm being a bit dramatic about this, but it genuinely pissed me off when I saw that. Do I give a shit about Gillian Robertson, Mackenzie Dern, and the strawweight title picture? Not really, not particularly, but these guys are fighters, and you have to respect them. They go out there. Gillian Robertson was probably getting paid like 120K, 50K maybe. She's probably getting 50K to show 50K to win for a world title fight. She's getting brain damage. She's getting, body damage, everything. She's given her body to this sport. It's a legit, brutal, hard sport. She's probably not getting paid that much money. She goes out there, fumbles the biggest opportunity of her life, maybe the only opportunity that she's ever going to have to challenge for a title. She just fumbled it, and Dean Thomas is out here just kicking her when she's down. Like, that is not the behavior of anyone that I would respect, let alone the behavior of someone who claims that he loves her and that he's her best friend, or like they're friends or whatever. Not best friend, but like they're friends. He claims they're good friends. That's not the behavior of a friend. That's not the behavior of an acquaintance, let alone a friend. So Dean Thomas, sort yourself out, mate. That was absolutely abysmal. And you suck, bro. You are a douchebag. Like, that was fucking disgusting behavior. I can't lie. I gotta keep it real. Like and subscribe. See you boys in the next one. Much love.